Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. Live from Austin, Texas, broadcasting worldwide, it's Alex Jones.
Now, Aaron Dykes, anytime you want, pop in with questions for Lyndon Larouche. He needs no introduction. I've studied his material for about 16 years, and I cannot disagree with his analysis of how the world works, who is behind the power structure. Former director of the CIA called him the best private intelligence analyst organization out there. Of course, that's the LaRouche organization. You can disagree, I guess, with, at least I do, with some of their solutions. But regardless of that, out of all the hundreds of economists and historians we interview, he's in the top 2 or 3 of his accuracy. And analyzing the Super Congress a few months ago with us and where all this would go, and now the admission that it's worse than the Great Depression in housing and spiraling out of control, and everything that's happening. Lyndon Larouche, thank you so much for joining us, sir. Bottom line, give us your executive summary on exactly what happened 3 weeks ago with Occupy Wall Street, who they are, and the attempt by the Federal Reserve inner cartel to co-opt it, in my view, and trick the people into calling for austerity to be paid to the very culprits of our predicament.
Well, of course, this is an old story. It went through several phases. What we're looking at now is the result of what happened in 2007 when the bailout process really started. It actually ran openly in 2008. But it was already running in 2007 at the end of September of that year. So we now are in a breakdown crisis of the entire international system. That is the transatlantic system, and there is no cure for this in the ordinary way. This thing is going. We're going dead on the water, and you can't say exactly what date because a lot of things can be done to adjust things in the short term. But essentially, we've reached the limits. This thing is coming down. Now, the solutions are fairly obvious. We have to go to Glass-Steagall first. But I think we have to get Obama out first. Now, I don't think that this situation is impossible now. Obama is extremely unpopular. Even some of the press has been going after him on interviews in a way which treats him as dead meat politically. And I think he's pretty close to that right now.
Yes, sir. In fact, you talked about this months ago. Now we have the Washington Post, Chicago Tribune, every day calling for him to basically step down. What did you make of him trying to embrace Occupy Wall Street yesterday in that speech? And what did you make of the fact that so many people are now basically deserting him? And then his statement of, well, I haven't prosecuted bankers because what they did was legal. Well, yeah, this very group of bankers changed the law, got rid of Glass-Steagall to allow themselves to commit crimes, but we've had the government say black people aren't humans before, and it's the law. Hitler said he was allowed to put people in death camps because it was the German. But it shows that it's still illegal to pass a law to be able to do something that's illegal under common law.
Yeah, the problem here is this thing is really coming down now. And Obama is down. You find that a lot of the press is down on him, too, which means the signal is out. This guy is politically deadbeat. How it's going to work out is not exactly certain. What is needed is the Glass-Steagall. Without this reform, and this isn't going to be enough, we're going to have to go to a credit system. That's the only way we can get enough jobs, productive jobs, not the so-called fake jobs, but enough to start rebuilding the U.S. economy. And we're going to have to do it quickly. We have very little time to waste. We have options, but it's highly dangerous. And at the last minute, virtually, when the building's about to go up in flames, people have now changed their mind and decided they're going to fight against Obama and fight against the kind of things he represents.
And so he's spinning that and running with open arms towards people that have woken up to him in a desperate way to co-opt it. But I'm on the ground, sir. I'm not seeing that working. So I want to get into where you see this going for Obama, what the Anglo-American establishment will do versus some of your ideas of instead of giving tens of trillions to foreign bankers, they hoard this credit system to defibrillate the economic heart.
We can. That's a very simple thing to do from a standpoint of technicalities, and I think we have now a real surge inside the U.S. population. You've got to look at the 80% of the population, of the voting population, which has tended to vote against both Republicans and Democrats, who they suspected of being sympathetic to what Obama represents. That's where it stands now. And what's happened, you've seen now the press itself, which has come on the game and began to ask nasty questions and make gentle insults to the president in the last appearance. So he is actually dead meat, and the only thing that could get him in the presidency still would be a virtual coup, like some kind of thing of that sort. He's finished now. The exact date he's finished is what's uncertain. But the
all right, let me stop you for just a moment, sir. Because we got you on a bit late, and I want to spend as much time with you as we can. But, Mr. Larouche, let me ask you this question from your deep understanding and connections out there in Wall Street, in D.C. Is the mainstream organs of establishment, mouthpieces like Wall Street Journal, like Washington Post, Chicago Tribune, telling him to step down, is that so they get a new puppet to con people? Or is that members of the establishment realizing the system coming down is probably going to destroy them as well, and is that desperate floundering? Do the banksters think they're in control of things, or has it reached panic level? Because I'm seeing real signs now of panic, and that's even more scary.
So that is panic. There is, but first of all, there's qualified panic. There's an effort to get this guy out. Now, we've had, up to 80% of the actively voting people have tended to vote against both Republicans and Democrats who went with Obama. That was the early in September. Now we're getting an actual breakdown crisis. They cannot go any further with this bailout. The bailout effort would blow everything out. We have all kinds of things that are going on. I say right now we're on the edge. There's a highly popular motivation out there.
Hold on, we're going to skip this break, guys. We're going to skip this network break. I'm telling Genesis that right now. Okay? Sorry, Lyndon, go ahead.
Okay. We're actually in a breakdown crisis, and the only thing that will work is there's several things that we have to understand what the positive measures are that will work. The first thing you've got to do, you've got to get this president out of there, because with the cowardice among the politicians, despite what some of them are saying these days, they don't have the stamina to buck this guy really. And he has to be bucked absolutely. His whole program has to go. Otherwise, you cannot save the United States. Now, if you can get him under control in the process of being impeached or something like that, you can control it, at least temporarily. If you then enact Glass-Steagall, again, the new version, it's the same thing as it did before, but it's a new version. You will solve the problem by bringing it under control. But you have to realize we have a huge mass of worthless paper which has been dumped on the United States as other nations in this bailout process of the past several years. So we don't have much legroom to move. We need to get a real employment program that is a production program, not just...
Okay, let's go back then. We bring back in Glass-Steagall, doesn't let them create derivatives anymore, which then destabilizes and creates uncertainty in the entire financial universe. We write off the fraudulent debt of these mega banks and triage it into some other financial institution. How do you do that? Then let's get...
There's only one thing you can do. You go with Glass-Steagall, yes, that'll solve the problem in one sense. It'll bring the thing under control. But you will have the Wall Street crowd and the London crowd and so forth will take a bath beyond belief. They're going to lose heavily. But the problem is, with Glass-Steagall, we would do the right thing, but can we do enough of the right thing? We've got to put people back to work rather fast. I mean, real production, fast. It's going to be a hard job. We're going to have more credit in the system. So we're going to have to create a credit system, a of the type that the United States did in the first Constitution, which is how we got out of the mess we were in at the end of the war. We're going to have to do that. We're going to have to launch some large programs and high-gain programs, and these programs will actually allow us to get into a recovery mode. We're going to
look at how they're getting rid of NASA. I mean, we building projects, bridges, NASA, maglev. What are some of the other examples? And if people say this is socialist, I'm here debating different programs. The point is we've already given tens of trillions to foreign banks that goes nowhere, paying off derivatives. You know, the point is they've already killed our free market. There's got to be some way to put people back to work instead of just going on welfare rolls. Might as well give them a job, is what you're saying.
No, we won't even give them welfare the way it's going now. That's what's happening now. So what we have is a situation where the federal government must take responsibility for what it's responsible for. The federal government, the private interests, are not compelled to serve the public interest. They're compelled to try to do what they can in their own judgment and in their own interest. But we need a large program like what Roosevelt did. We need it on a large scale. NWAPA is one of the key drivers. We have to reform our system as a credit system. We have to build up a banking system of the proper type. Now, we've got to get high technology jobs in there, and we've got to start bringing the population back into the direction of high-quality production. We also have an option with what's going on with Russia and China and some other countries today in the Pacific region. We have the market and ability to launch one of the biggest programs of recovery that's ever been done. It's potentially available to us. It's going to take some years to get the thing really successful. But we can act immediately to stabilize the present situation and reverse some of the evil trends that are killing people.
Okay, we're talking to Lyndon Larouche right now, and we're going to give you the websites in a moment. And regardless of you like his solutions or not, I like some of it. I just don't know if it was ever doable, and there's always the danger of this. But we already are at the point of total collapse. Lyndon, my issue here is you talk about high technology programs that have led the world, that made America great. Look at just Apple with some well-deployed, well-marketed trinket technology that was already out there. They were just good at cash reserves in the U.S. government. There's no doubt that pure research and true development would put this country, at the forefront. Why do the banksters wage war against industrial and high-tech economies? Why do they openly say, Maurice Strong and others, they want a post-industrial world in the United States while transferring it to China? Why are they destroying their own military command base?
But they're doing it because that's what they're like. Essentially, it's like, look, what happened was we were about to go to war in Indochina. President Kennedy opposed that. He opposed it flat, with Douglas MacArthur on it. So suddenly, Kennedy is killed. Now what happened? Not only did we get into a war, which ruined us for about 10 years of war in the Indochina area, and that ruined us permanently because Kennedy, who'd opposed that war and who had a large industrial development program in there, was killed. And the killing of Kennedy resulted in the cancellation of the Glass-Steagall, the WAPA program. The WAPA was on the board. Bobby Kennedy was going to go for it too. If we'd gone with the WAPA at that time, we'd have solved our problem and maintained the dynamic that we were getting into in the beginning of the 1960s. Well,
he was also moving to nationalize the Fed and start issuing interest-free U.S. money, at least to the government.
Well, that's different. That's actually a credit system.
Yes.
And that's been done before in war and other kinds of emergencies. And it's correct to do it as long as it's the right program. But this is the situation. Once Kennedy was killed, and then his brother Bobby too, this assassination ensured this long war, like this long pattern of long wars we've been going into ever since. We've been bled to death by long wars. And the public hasn't.
So you're saying these finance capitalist parasites, crony, monopoly men, it's a tropism. They can't help but destroy everything. It's what they do. They don't build things, they wreck things.
Well, you've got a political interest behind it, not just the money people, but the money people happen to be working for a kind of interest. They don't give a damn about the United States. They don't give a damn about the people. They want to reduce the population size. The British, for example, are insisting on reducing the world's population from about 7 billion people down to less than 1.